I was going to vote for Eric Swalwell for governor of California, and you won't believe who else was going to do that as well. This is Lisa Guerrero Unleashed.
Father bless Lisa today.
I want to talk about trust, and I want to talk about betrayal. I, for over a decade, was the investigative reporter for Inside Edition. I did over 750 investigations that really focused on crimes and scams and cold cases. And a lot of those crimes had to do with women and children and the betrayal of trust. And one of the things I learned through all of these investigations is that sometimes we put our trust into people that we shouldn't, whether it is a parent, a spouse, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a politician. Now we doom scroll through our social media feed, and it seems like every other story is about somebody getting sexually assaulted, abuse, hashtag release the Epstein files. Um, these horrible stories coming out about politicians that we found that were sexually abusing women on both sides of the aisle. Eric Swalwell on the Democratic side, Tony Gonzalez on the Republican side. They're both leaving Congress, thank goodness. But we tend to, as women, I think specifically, we tend to put our trust in people. We want to think the best of people. And as I've learned over many years, that's not always a good idea. And still to this day, I do it as well. Here's an example. Not long ago, I was at an event, kind of a political slash social event here in Malibu, where I live. And I met Eric Swalwell. At the time, he was pretty much the darling of the Democratic Party. He was the front runner for the gubernatorial campaign here, and he, is this very popular, outspoken anti-Trump politician. A lot of us remember him speaking out on CNN and MS Now about the Epstein files, and specifically a lot of cases where women were victims of sexual predators. He always seemed like he was on our side. He would be outspoken about the No Kings protests. And I just remember thinking, he's such a good spokesperson for the right side of history. So when I was at this event and I met him, we took a picture together and we chatted for a while. I sat next to him during this event where an author was talking about some interesting things, and we exchanged phone numbers at the end of this event. I didn't think anything of it other than he's a great guy. I can't wait to vote for him. I'm going to vote for Eric Swalwell to be the governor of California. I think he's a great guy. And so when I started hearing rumblings recently, a couple weeks ago, about how he treated staffers and that he may have dated or had some kind of flirtation with staffers, I just didn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. There were no names or faces attached at the time, and I didn't hear any stories from victims or survivors. But I did think to myself, no way. That cannot be true. I just met the guy, super nice guy. He didn't hit on me. He was a perfect gentleman. I've seen him on TV talking about women's issues and being an advocate for marginalized people. So I trusted him, which was, I look back and I go, why, how can I do that? I have investigated crimes against women and children for many years. Why would I automatically believe him rather than these rumors that had to do with women? It took me a couple of days, and then I saw the first face of a woman who claimed that she had been abused by Eric Swalwell. And that's when I thought to myself, I was wrong. I shouldn't have trusted him because I believe her. Once I saw her, once I heard the story, once I heard stories about other women, I was, I felt betrayed. Honestly, I was angry, I was disappointed, and I was ashamed that I put my trust in somebody that I didn't really know. He's a celebrity, right? Politicians are celebrities. And I just thought, well, he's on our side. So here we are. He's now obviously dropped out of the campaign. He's not in Congress anymore. Um, Plenty of women have come out now that have shared horrific stories about him. I'm going to talk to somebody who has advocated for women for many years and who's going to share some stories about Eric Swalwell and also the Epstein files because she represents 11 Epstein survivors. And I think the takeaway from this conversation, hopefully for all of us, is to be less trusting, not be afraid, but take back our power and really be able to discern what somebody's obligation is to us when they are representing us as politicians. They represent us. And we have to be careful who we trust, who we vote for. And I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'll probably say it later. We've got to elect more women, we've got to hire more women, we've got to promote more women. And we need the men, our allies, the people in our lives, the people who love us to also support us and to look out for us and to also help us understand that we can't, I think this feminine, um, uh, maternal, empathetic instinct is to trust people and to be loving and to be open. And we have to be careful that we don't leave ourselves open to abuse. I wrote a book about being a warrior and fighting back and finding your own inner badass, and it's called Warrior: My Path to Being Brave. My memoir was really about my journey in finding bravery and in trying to develop this bravery muscle that we all have, but like any other kind of muscle, you have to practice being brave every day. So in my book, I talk about exercises where you can commit a random act of courage every day. So you do one small brave thing, and over time you become more courageous. I think that is something that even I need to remind myself of. We need to constantly be brave. We need to think about how our words and actions affect others and how other people's words and actions affect us. And so I think my book talks about that. I talk about it a lot in my keynotes, something I want to talk about here on my podcast. But we really need to be vigilant about being brave and being a badass because we all have that inside us. I am so excited to talk to my next guest because she is not only a powerhouse and an icon, she is also somebody that I call a friend, and somebody that I respect greatly. Now, you have seen her face, you know of her work, you have certainly heard about her clients, and we're going to dig into some really timely and important topics right now. But first, I want to introduce to you the great Lisa Bloom. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Hi, Lisa G. It is such an honor to be here, and congratulations on the new podcast. I'm so excited for this. I will be listening. I'm a huge fan of you and your work going back many, many years. So this is exactly what you should be doing. I'm so excited.
Thank you, Lisa B. I want to make sure that everybody knows a couple of things, just to like set the table here. You and I are friends. I first met you as a reporter when I was working with Inside Edition. I would cover some of your press conferences. I've interviewed you. And in fact, you actually represented me in a matter that had to do with pay equity. And so I know you professionally, I know you personally. I have so much admiration for you, but I wanted to let people know that we've worked together, and I feel like people perceive you as this badass attorney and the attorney they would want to represent them. And I can first person say you are the person that I wanted to represent me, and you did an amazing job. But also, I think that comes with a little bit of uh, it's almost there's a fear factor with you. Like you don't want to get on the wrong side of Lisa Bloom. I was so impressed to see the way you conducted your press conference with your client, Lana Drews. You are definitely the type of attorney any woman would want to have advocate for her. When I saw the press conference, it was gut wrenching and it was heartbreaking. Can you talk about her case and what she wants, what she's seeking in terms of justice?
Absolutely. And let me just say thank you so much for the kind words. They really mean a lot to me. I hope people are in fear of me. They should be, uh, because once we're in a fight to win. And since you mentioned that I did have the great honor of fighting for you in a pay equity case, and you are such a fierce warrior, and it is truly the great pleasure of my life to be able to fight for amazing, brave women like you. And when I say brave, courage is not the absence of fear. Almost all my clients have fear, like Lana Drews, but they go ahead and do it anyway. And that's such an inspiration to me every day. I've been doing this for 40 years. And some people say to me, like, isn't it hard representing rape victims? And I mean, of course, sometimes yes, but mostly it's hugely inspiring. So Lana Drews has very serious sexual assault claims against Eric Swalwell, as does at least one other woman, and several other women in addition have similar claims, although less serious. More like sexual harassment, verbal stuff, sending pictures, which is gross and disgusting. Lana, she was terrified. Can you imagine? I don't think most people can really imagine walking into a press conference where there were probably 50 reporters, giant cameras, lights, a million microphones at the table. She's never done anything like that in her life. And not only does she have to sit down, look up, and speak, but she's going to tell the most harrowing, intimate story of her life. And she did it. God bless. I mean, I could cry now thinking about it.
I arrived at his hotel room. I was already incapacitated and I couldn't move my arms or my body. He raped me and he choked me. And while he was choking me, I lost consciousness. And I thought I died.
She has the right to control every aspect of her body, every minute of every hour of every day of her life. And no man, no matter how powerful, no matter his station in life, ever has the right to take that away from her. And I'm sick and tired of it. I think you are. I think the American public is. These guys in high profile positions taking advantage of women. And the only way we're going to stop them is if those who are hurt are brave enough to come forward. And that's, I think, what Lana has inspired in all of us.
This notion that women are disposable, that that there should be this opportunity that men see that they can touch us, that they can abuse us, that they can harass us in some way, and that we don't have ownership over our own physical
Yes.
bodies. And we're
Yes.
seeing so many of these types of cases where women are drugged, where women are incapacitated in some way, and that
Yes.
men take what they want.
Yes.
And, as a former model, as somebody who has faced harassment in the past, there's some kind of through line here that is, the reason why Lana's story struck me is because we've heard this before, and we've heard it recently, where women who are brave enough to come forward are saying a lot of the same things, which is, I was somehow incapacitated. I trusted this person.
I heard a commentator yesterday saying, no woman should ever go to a man's hotel room, and like, frankly, I agree. And I've said that for many years. I've had this since the 80s. I will never meet a man in his hotel room when we're supposedly talking business. We can meet in the coffee shop. Okay. But I have always been the weirdo saying that. And I would say 95% of the people I've said that to, I'm like, oh, come on, don't be so rigid, right? So it is not the woman's fault. Well, I mean, in Lana's case, she says she was drugged, and he said he has to stop by his room to pick up some papers to go to an event that they were going to go to together. She didn't think anything of it. She was trusting. It is not her fault for being trusting. It is, even if she hadn't been drugged, as she alleges, right? It is not a woman's fault for not always being on edge, not always being vigilant and paranoid. It is the fault of the perpetrator, the people who do these terrible things. It is 100% on them, and not the fault of the woman. Yes, we should, be careful out there, because we know this exists. We know that sexual assault exists, but it is not our fault if we are victims.
Interestingly, a show that I hosted recently called Secrets of Playboy kind of dug in
Hmm.
to this dark world of the Playboy brand, and dozens of women have come forward since the 50s and 60s, claiming that they had been abused or assaulted or drugged or raped by Hugh Hefner or a photographer or somebody in that world, somebody from the Playboy Club or the Mansion. And that show is extremely popular. A lot of people watched it. It was very revealing. But the typical comments back after people watched it was, "Well, what do you expect? These women went to the mansion,
Right,
or they decided
right,
to pose for Playboy."
right.
And again, here we are in 2026, still fighting the notion that it doesn't matter if we choose to pose for Playboy, if we choose to go to dinner with a person, if
Right.
we go upstairs to his room so he can gather some papers. It's there's constantly trying to figure out a way to blame the woman instead of putting the responsibility on the man who is the predator to begin with.
Absolutely. And, I think the reason I've heard that, my entire career, I've been doing these cases for 40 years. And I think part of it is trying to separate yourself from a horrible story. It's like a psychological response of, well, I wouldn't have gone to the hotel room and therefore I'm safe, right? And of course, you're not safe because sexual assaults happen in all kinds of contexts. But I think that's what it is trying to it's trying to make yourself feel more comfortable with these horrible stories. But yes, look, even if somebody is on a date and they go voluntarily to a hotel room, they have the right to say yes or no to any sexual act. And I've had many cases where
Yeah.
women say, I'm okay with A, B, and C, but not D, E, and F. And if he forces after she says no and he continues, that is still a sexual assault. She retains the right to every aspect of her body, every minute of her life. I mean, that is her choice. I also encourage people, if they are in a date situation, which Lana's situation was not, but if they are, to get comfortable talking about what they want to do and what they don't want to do, and to use your words and communicate. Because I also have a lot of women who reach out to me and say, well, we were on a date and and I didn't really say anything, but later I was uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, you you do need to speak up. Yeah.
Okay, I want to dig into another big topic, the big topic of the moment, I believe, which is the Epstein files. And
Mm.
you represent 11 survivors. When you go through social media, every other post is hashtag Epstein files, hashtag release the Epstein files.
Right.
I want to find out from you where we stand right now with the notion that there's somebody out there holding on to these files that can release them to the public. So,
Yeah.
release the Epstein files for dummies, Lisa. Please tell me where we are with the Epstein files,
Sure.
and how are we going? Are we ever going to be able to see unredacted Epstein files?
Okay, sure. So we understand there's about 6 million pages. A lot of them are duplications, but it's about 6 million pages. Okay, a couple of months ago, we can all remember that there was a movement to release the Epstein files. President Trump was against it. Marjorie Taylor Greene and some other Republican women's pushed very hard. And basically, Congress said, we're going to pass a law. You have to release the Epstein files. And Trump was forced to sign it, even though he didn't want to. About 3 million pages of the 6 million was released. And of that half, there were a lot of redactions. And there were also a lot of survivor names, including many of my clients, that were not redacted. I mean, hello, this is not that difficult. There's software that does this. Giant document dumps are very common in litigation. You don't have to have people in a back room going through with their human eyes, right? There's very sophisticated technology that could search for every survivor's name and redact it, which I guess they didn't use, or they didn't use it competently. So after we and other survivor advocates complained about this, they did go back and redact the survivor names. Of course, some people got them though before they did that, include not just reputable journalists would not release their names, but other people, have those names now, which is very unfortunate. Okay. In addition, there were a lot of redactions that should have been redacted. Redacting, by the way, is just a blacking out of something. So there's a lot of emails between Jeffrey Epstein and some other people, apparently high-profile men, talking about girls, talking about like 13, 14-year-old girls. I think there's one talking about 9-year-old girl. Okay, so disgusting. Why are those names blacked out? Why? Who are we protecting? We want to know who these people are. And there's been no movement from that from the Department of Justice. And then there's the remaining 3 million pages, which we also don't have.
As long as Donald Trump is the president, do you think we're ever going to get any more information within the next few years?
Well, we got this much while he was president because he was forced, right? And the public is very much on my side, on our side, those of us who want the Epstein files to be released. And that's very helpful. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene is now gone from Congress. She got driven out after she did the right thing, and that's very unfortunate. And I appreciate what she did, even though I disagree with her on most things politically, but I do appreciate what she did. And anybody on any side of the political spectrum who wants to help with this, we certainly welcome it. And by the way, my clients are Democrat and Republican. Like, this is not a political issue. So do I think we could? Yes, we have to continue to push. I mean, that's the bottom line. There's a law in place now that says they're supposed to release all this. Now, there is a big exception to the law, which is if there's an active investigation, they can withhold documents. And Trump said openly he wants to investigate Democrats only, who are named in the Epstein files. Yeah,
you read my mind. I want to know why Melania isn't testifying. I mean, if you're going to haul in Hillary, Melania is certainly, at least as far as we know, more closely involved with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell than Hillary Clinton was. So, why, I wonder, hasn't she been called to testify about what she knows?
Well, I think we know why, because she's first lady and because the Republicans protect their own. They don't have philosophical, they don't have values. They just want power and they just want to grab onto power, right? So, for example, we were talking about Eric Swalwell a minute ago. He's a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. His attorney put out a statement that this is political. How could it be political? I'm a lifelong Democrat. I probably would have voted for him for governor if this had not all come out. So that on our side of the table, that's how we roll, is whoever
consequences.
There's consequences, whoever they are, it doesn't matter. But on the other side, they're going to protect their own. So that's why, Melania did that very bizarre press conference of, don't talk about me in the Epstein files. It's like, was anybody talking about you? And also your first lady, you have this huge platform. First ladies have typically used it to do good things in the world for other people. I don't see her doing that. She just mostly is concerned about her own reputation. I mean, these people are so self-involved. So there's that one very friendly email between her and Ghislaine Maxwell, using words like love.
Sweet pea.
I mean, so it seems pretty friendly, but I'm not saying that Melania has necessarily had a lot of involvement with them. She may have only seen them at parties. But I do agree with what she said at the end of her press conference, which is we should have congressional hearings. And hey, let's call in the guy who's named by far the most times in the Epstein files, and that's Donald Trump. All right, if we're going to have hearings,
exactly
a logical person to subpoena. Let's have him come in.
Okay, we understand why Melania hasn't been hauled in at this point, but there's another guy who I pointed out in some of my videos online that I discovered has a connection between Playboy, Epstein, and Victoria's Secret. And there have been some survivors from the Victoria's Secret world as well. And that, of course, is owned by Leslie Wexner, who funded much of Jeffrey Epstein's lifestyle, right? And there was a photographer I worked with at Playboy named Antoine Verglas. He is named 600 times that we know of in the Epstein files. Wow. He's the person that sent the link about scopolamine, which is the drug that can render somebody incapacitated. He sent that link to Jeffrey Epstein. Ends up Jeffrey Epstein was growing that plant in his nursery. So wow. Antoine Verglas is a photographer who has worked in all of these places, which leads me to this question about, the modeling industry, the fashion industry, agents, photographers. There is this whole world that has been the conduit for billionaires, wealthy, powerful men to find young, vulnerable women. And this has been going, this is not just Epstein. This has been going on for decades. When I was a model in the 80s, our agents would take a cut of sending us to parties to be party girls for the evening at some rich guy's house.
That still happens.
So it's it's still happening.
Sure.
So again, getting back to the notion that women are disposable, young girls don't have any agency over their own bodies, and that rich and powerful men can take what they want. There is a pipeline here, and that is in many cases the fashion industry, agents,
Yes.
and photographers. I'm
Yes.
wondering if any of your clients that you represent from the Epstein matter, if any of them were trafficked or found themselves on Epstein Island or in the clutches of one of his friends because of the modeling industry.
Yes. The answer is yes. And first of all, I just love how you put all that together. That's your investigative reporter skill, is like really digging deep and thinking about connection. I imagine you with like pictures on a wall and colored string, like connecting people like you do in the movies. I don't think
Kind
I've ever
of.
heard of this,
Pretty
but
much.
that is so great. And yes, I over the years, just in general, I have represented so many models. I feel like modeling is one of the industries where there is the most level of sexual exploitation. The fashion industry, models are just treated like furniture, like ornaments, groped, grabbed, sexually assaulted, sent out for these parties. I mean, look, if you're just going to a party, you're getting paid to be there and be sociable, that's fine. There's nothing illegal about that. But there's a lot of exploitation that happens. And also these models are often very young, sometimes underage, or just barely of 18, 19 years old. A couple of my Epstein clients I can think of, one of them was, her name is Kiki. She's come out and spoken out publicly using just her first name, Kiki, so I can say that. And she was a young model in New York, just absolutely gorgeous 19-year-old girl working in a diner, making money, getting a few modeling jobs. And after Epstein abused her, she just left entirely. She left modeling, she left the fashion industry, she left New York, and she just went back home to the Midwest and was like, I can't do any of it. I mean, it just ruined her. And that's the other thing I want to mention, because sometimes people really don't understand the impact of sexual abuse. I mean, it is a profound impact. It's not just a one-time thing, and it takes a while sometimes for it to sink in, with the trauma and the fear. But I mean, and Kiki's a perfect example, leaving something that was her dream. She gave it up for the rest of her life.
So one of the things I want to kind of end with here is the notion of justice and what justice looks like, because justice is different for every survivor of crime, right? Sometimes justice is, you know, uh, filing a report, having the legal system, um, investigate a case that they claim they were raped or hurt or assaulted somehow. So maybe it's through the justice system, maybe it's through civil action, getting money from someone who hurt them. Maybe justice to them is taking out a billboard in some guy's neighborhood saying, predator lives here. And sometimes justice is just, speaking about their story and having somebody believe them.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
what does justice look like for your clients, specifically the victims of the Epstein files, and where do we go from here?
Yes, and you're so right. So when people come to me, we always talk about what they want, right? It's not about me. It's about, especially in a sexual abuse case, because your control and your power has been taken away when you were sexually abused, and we want to return that control and power to you to make your own decisions. So in the case of Lana Drews and Eric Swalwell, we determined that because she has such serious allegations of drugging and sexual assault, she needs to go to the police immediately to report it, and that's what we did. In the case of the Epsteins, the Epstein clients, these were civil cases because he died, right? So he can't face any criminal charges. But we very aggressively, on behalf of our 11 clients, went after several different entities. So, of course, the Epstein estate was first. And I'm very proud to say that for all 11, we got very significant financial settlements from the estate. First, they only were going to give us settlements for 8 of them. And we said, thank you, that's a good start. We want it for all 11. And we fought very hard to get compensation for all 11. Then we went after JP Morgan Bank, which was found to have colluded with Epstein. And they were forced to set up about a $200 million fund for Epstein victims, because how dare they? I'm still very angry at JP Morgan Bank for turning their back on victims and just caring about the money. It's the number one bank in America. I don't bank there anymore. And we got significant settlements, again, a second round for the victims. I mean, there's really no amount of money that can ever compensate for sexual abuse, but it certainly helps. People who have money might be insensitive to what it's like to not have money, but money makes a big difference in people's lives. They can go back to school, they can change careers, they can pay off student loans, they can get better housing, they can put their kids in a better school. And that's what my clients typically do. And I love hearing about what they do with the money that we get for them. And then lastly, we filed a case against the FBI for its negligence in handling the Epstein matter over the years. And that is currently pending. So any way we can fight for our clients and get justice for them, like, we're going to do it. And that's what we've done in the Epstein cases. And so far, we've been successful.
I just want to thank you on behalf of all women. I want to thank you for the great work you're doing and continue to do, the work you've done for me, and especially being so public and being outspoken about it, because when you see somebody like you, then it makes you feel more courageous to be able to say, I can't speak out. Maybe I'll find Lisa Bloom or someone like Lisa Bloom to represent me. And also, I think it makes us all think very carefully. When I was watching Lana Drew's press conference, it just made me feel like, okay, I've got to be careful. I've got to be careful about who I trust. Like you, I was going to vote for Eric Swalwell for governor. I live in California. So it's really made me consider the environment we live in, who we trust, how we trust, and how to move forward in a responsible way. I think, we as women have to do that. It's important, and our allies, the men in our lives that support us and love us, I think it's up to them also to be careful about who we trust, who we vote for,
Right.
in every part of our lives.
Well, you know who very, very rarely, almost never commits sexual assault? Women. So let's just vote for women, and then we're going to solve the problem.
There we go. Elect more women, hire more women, promote more women. And
Perfect.
there you go. Love it. Thank you so much, Lisa, for joining me. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. Congrats on the podcast.
Thank you. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. #SAAM. Have you or someone you love been sexually assaulted or abused? Contact RAIN 24/7 to connect with a real live person who's trained to help. Call 800-656-HOPE or text HOPE to 64673 or go to nwcave.org/help for a list of resources in your area. Every day in our community, tough breaks happen to honest people. Layoffs happen to single parents. Evictions happen to families with babies. Empty bank accounts happen to hungry people. But thankfully, every day in our community, good people happen to bad things. Your sustaining monthly gift of just $25 doubles the Salvation Army's ability to assist our neighbors battling poverty and help them win. Join the fight for good at salvationarmyusa.org. Time for Ask Me Anything. I am so excited about this. I love spinning my yarns and answering your questions. Again, thank you for submitting them to all of my socials, including right here on YouTube. I'm also on Blue Sky. I've got 2 pages on Facebook. I'm over at Threads, TikTok, and of course, Instagram as well. And now's the time to bring in my trusty sidekick, friend, and producer, Benjie K, is coming to us from a secret location somewhere in the United States of America. Hi, Benjie.
Spinning your yarns.
Yes, I'm spinning my yarns. I feel like, Jeff Pearlman, the famous sports writer, called me the Forrest Gump of personalities because I've met so many people and have had such a crazy career spanning from acting and modeling to sportscasting to news and investigations and NFL cheerleading. So I have so many crazy stories to share, and this is the time to share them. Do you have questions for me, Benjie?
I do, and that's actually what makes
look at your T-shirt. Wait, stop, please. Los Toyers, my Dyers. Yes. Okay. Love it. Thank you. Was that a shout out for me or just?
It's a shout out for all of it. I mean, I tell you, being a Dodger fan for my entire life has has really had, maybe some ups and downs, but not too many terrible downs. But the ups the last few years is like
have been amazing.
Really incredible to be a Dodger fan and watch what they've been able to do.
At this juncture, I would like to tell a very brief story about before you and I met, Benjie. This story is about your dad, Irv Kays. And when I was a young sports reporter covering the Dodgers, I was on the field at batting practice. This was probably 1997, 1998, somewhere in that vicinity. And I was the only woman on the field covering sports day in and day out on camera for Los Angeles in this market. And all of a sudden, this guy comes down. He's older, kind of short guy, big personality. And he said, "Hey, what's your name?" And I said, "I'm Lisa Guerrero." And he said, "Yeah, I heard about you. I've heard about you. You're doing a good job. You know, someday I feel like you're going to meet my son. I have a feeling someday you're going to work with my son." And I said, "Who's your son?" And he said, "His name is Benjie Kays." And shockingly, a couple years later, I started working with you, Benjie. And Irv, I don't know how he knew that, why he came up to me, introduced himself, and within seconds said he felt like someday I would be working with you. And here we are decades later working together.
Well, he was a professional PR person, but he also was a family PR person. He was somebody obviously meant an incredible amount to my career, but he always had a smile. He always had the ability to kind of bring the room up, and that's something I hope to have had at least a small percentage of that.
Well, and again, he was amazing. He was a legendary PR person. He worked for the Chargers and the Raiders. Like he was a very well known person and icon, really, in this community. And when he passed away, his memorial service was at what was it? It was at the
Hollywood
racetrack.
Park. Yep.
Hollywood Park, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all kinds of sports personalities were there, and other legends were there to honor your dad, Irv Kays. So that's how we met before we met, through your dad. Incredible.
And here we are.
Here we are.
So let's get to the Ask Me Anything segment. And question 1 comes from Ben Giddens. What public people do you admire and believe are on the right side of history?
Amazing question. You guys, you are the people I admire. Every single person who has participated in the No Kings protests, people who get in the street to march about inequity, to march about justice, real life people who take it upon themselves to make signs and to demand accountability from our politicians, from law enforcement, from the people that are powerful, that need to be held accountable. So I find a great deal of comfort in knowing that my fellow Americans, the vast majority of us, want to see things change for the better, and that many of us, millions of us, are getting out into the streets and making our voices heard. So you are the ones that inspire me. You are brave, and you are all warriors. And every single day, I'm thankful to see other people online and in person and out on the streets really making change happen.
Let's get to question 2 from Angela Schellenberg. How did the early loss of your mom shape what you do in the world?
This is my mom, Lucy Adriana Guerrero. Lucy Guerrero. She was a Chilean immigrant, and she came here when she was just a teenager, and she wanted a better life. Her parents wanted a better life for her. And I'm very proud that I'm an immigrant's daughter. She learned how to speak English here. She went to Marshall High School of Hoop Dreams fame. If you're a basketball fan and you love documentaries, watch Hoop Dreams. She went to that high school. She was a warrior, and she taught me to be a warrior. I didn't have her for very long. She was 29 years old, and I was 8 years old when she died from cancer. But before she passed away, she brought me into her room and she said, "Lisita, never forget that your last name, Guerrero, means warrior. You were born to fight." And so she instilled that fighting spirit in me when I was very young. I am the person I became because of her strength. And also my dad, my dad married her. My dad, a white boy from the South, married this beautiful Latina fire plug. And together, they are responsible for making me a strong person and for also really imbuing me with this sense of purpose. And for that, I'm so thankful that my mother did that. That's the most incredible gift she gave me, was just telling me who I am. I am a warrior.
For as long as I've known you, I've known the story of your mom, and I've also known the story of your dad and how close you are to your dad and how important he is in your life. And knowing that you see him on a regular basis and how active he is in the community just really speaks to how a mom and a dad have played such a big role in making you who you are.
He's real. Thank you for saying that, Benji, because he's my hero. He is 87 years old, still out there fighting the good fight. He was a social worker for the Salvation Army for many years and then became a consultant for them and other nonprofits. He's the first ever real male feminist I ever knew, meaning he really cared about women's rights. He and my mom, were I guess beatniks and hippies from that generation that marched and cared about social justice, and he still does. At 87 years old, he's on Facebook, posting stuff about politics and the importance of voting and the importance of making your voice heard. And he put me in sports when I was a little girl, which gave me the love of sports. We shared the language of sports. And he's the reason I became a sportscaster, but he's also the reason that I became Guerrero, because I was born Lisa Coles with his last name. He's Walter Coles. But as an adult, I decided to take my mother's name to honor her and to connect with my Latin, my Latino background. And he really encouraged that and was not only comfortable with me doing that, he applauded it. And so he's the best dad ever. I lost my mom early, but God blessed me with an incredible dad that's still here today.
No doubt about that. He's a wonderful man, and maybe he could be a guest on the
We should
podcast.
have him. Great minds, Benji. Great minds. Yes, we should have him on. He's got so much to say, and he's a great photographer. He shoots all of these amazing sunsets, and he's talented and fun. Got a great sense of humor. So yes, let's have him on soon.
All right. So let's go to question 3 from Catherine Montoya. If you were not a journalist, what other career path would you have taken?
I think about this a lot because I have had different careers in the past, right? I started as a model and an actress, and then a Rams cheerleader, and then an NFL choreographer and entertainment director for several different teams. I worked for the Rams and then the Atlanta Falcons and the New England Patriots before I broke into sports casting, did that for a decade. And then I went on to cover news and entertainment news and then investigations. But if I wasn't doing this right now, I think I probably would have found that diversion in the path earlier. I had an opportunity in about the year 2000. I had been acting and I had been doing sportscasting for CBS2 here in Los Angeles. And I was on an NBC TV show, a soap opera called Sunset Beach. And after that show was canceled, I had an opportunity to do another show, a pilot. At the same time, I was asked to sign a full-time contract with Fox Sports Net. And I could have gone either way. So that was the pivotal time in my career where I had to make a choice. And at that time, there were very few women covering sports. And so I chose what was, I think, the harder path, being a female sportscaster. I chose that because I wanted to break ground. I wanted to be a pioneer in something that was going to be a challenge. I loved acting. I still love to act, and I'll act every now and then if I have a role. But I think, that was this pivotal choice. So if I hadn't been a broadcaster, the choice would have been to be an actor. And I think I would have put all of my energy and time into being as good as I could as an actor as well. Just so happens I chose broadcasting.
I love the way you document in the book right behind you, the book you wrote, Warrior, that period in time when you were literally doing both. You were doing the sports reporting and you were doing the acting. It was like, where am I? What's going on? The world is moving at a rapid pace, but you were able to accomplish that.
It couldn't be done today because Monday through Friday, I had a contract with NBC and I shot out in Burbank, Sunset Beach, which was an NBC show. During the weekends, they allowed me to carve a separate contract with CBS to cover sports for CBS too here in Los Angeles. So 2 nights a week, Tuesdays and Thursday nights, I did sports for CBS too, and both days in the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, covered sports. So I did not have a day off for 13 straight months. I worked on Christmas because there was an NBA game. I worked New Year's Day because that was Rose Bowl. I mean, I worked every single day. Thanksgiving, I worked every single day for 13 months straight, and I loved every second of it.
Is that why coffee was invented?
That's why I drink and still do about 4 cups a day before I switch to my Chardonnay. I really should mix in some water.
All right. Well, that's our Ask Me Anything segment for today.
Thanks, Benjie. And hey, you guys, keep the questions coming. They're wonderful. They're really good. And I'm enjoying the conversation. Again, please follow me on all my socials, leave comments down below, and we'll see you again very soon. Hey, I want to quickly thank our sponsor, Parasound. They're not just known for their amazing merch. In fact, they're much more known for their home audio amplifiers. When I first moved into my new house here, the outdoor music sucked, especially at higher volumes. It was grating to listen to. So I just stopped playing music when friends were over. You'd think I'd need to get new speakers, but I actually just swapped out my amplifier to a Parasound Zone Master 2350, and since then, it sounds amazing. I've had multiple friends tell me how good the music sounds, so I went from being pretty embarrassed and suddenly I want to throw dance parties every night. So if you're interested, you can visit parasound.com. They also have amplifiers for home theaters, dedicated vinyl listening areas, and of course, very cute and comfortable merch.